Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast, and it's Monday, so I'm going to go through all of the Tottenham Hotspur news that has added up over the weekend, but of course got to start with Friday night's defeat at home to Manchester City in the FA Cup fourth round. I admit it, I was incredibly confident going into this game. I thought we could get a result at least and potentially even win to keep up Manchester City's hoodoo and go through to the fifth round. And I even said I thought whoever won that game would win the cup. Unfortunately, it wasn't Tottenham Hotspur. And I know a lot of fans are talking about how Tottenham didn't perform well on the night. I wouldn't go so far as that. I know I'm always quite glass half full anyway, but what I would say is we were playing the treble winners. We're playing the best team in the world at the moment. They literally won the World Club Cup. And believe me, before that game, Pep Guardiola wanted that result as much as anything. He wanted to banish the not having scored at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He wanted to break the hoodoo of not having got a result there. And they were just really up for it. They were so impressive, Manchester City, I have to say. And it's not often I say that many teams come to Spurs or play against Spurs under Big Ange now and are just better than us. But in this game, I'm afraid Manchester City just were. Now look, there were some things that we weren't great at on the day. We really struggled to get out of our own third, but we continued trying, and Ange will be happy about that in the long run, really. If you look at the players that we had out on the night, and I'm not using this as an excuse, but did we miss Bissouma and Sarr in midfield? Yes, we did. Did we miss the clinical edge of Heung-min Son up front? Yes, of course we did. So I think with those players, then we would have given much more of a fight to Manchester City. But the reality is sometimes you've just got to say they were too good. They caused a lot of trouble to us down the sides with their fullbacks getting forward and the way that there was space behind Udogie and Porro. And that's always how it's going to be against Ange teams. We struggled to deal with that. And yeah, like I said, they were just a bit too good. Now, I will talk about the goal. At the time, did I think it was a foul on Vicario? No, I didn't. I'm a goalkeeper myself. I thought he was a little soft. He needed to be ball side. And I know why he wasn't ball side of the player who was up against him. It's because he was worried about it going past him to the back stick. But once you see it comes to the front, you just got to take him out. You got to take everything. And I know you're in danger of risking giving away a penalty, but not many penalties are given away for goalkeepers coming hard to come and get the ball. The reality is the player, I think it was Diaz maybe, was very clever, got his body in the way. Now, one thing I'd say, although I didn't think it was a foul at the time, and I'd still say not really a foul, there was a moment in the Manchester City against Liverpool game earlier this season where the shoe was on the other foot, and Ederson had exactly the same thing happen to him, and a foul was given. The Liverpool player got his body in the way and didn't allow the keeper to come and get the ball, and Ederson won a foul. So it's just one of those situations where you sometimes get them and you sometimes don't, and on this occasion it just didn't go for us. And look, we've got to say, in the games that Manchester City have come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they've had a lot of chances and had a lot of bad luck go against them, and this time the kind of bad luck went against us. What I will say is we weren't at our best, but it was a great kind of rear guard action. So many blocks, getting blocks on shots. Very impressive defending. Van der Ven especially was impressive. So great to have him back. And look, if I was going to pick one other negative, I know people have said to me before that they feel like I've got an agenda against Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I don't. I like him as a player. But in terms of what we're looking for, under Big Ange Postecoglou, I felt once again, he wasn't lacking work rate, he wasn't lacking desire, but there was one air shot that led to them having a chance. There was one late chance that De Bruyne had that he put wide that came from Højbjerg, showing for the ball to get it off. I think it was Romero, and that was good in his own box or just at the edge of his own box. But in reality, his touch was so poor that he allowed them to intercept it and get that shot away, and we were very lucky not to concede there. And if that had been the goal rather than the Vicario corner goal, everybody would be in on Højbjerg now. I just say it's another example for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as to why he's not perfect for this brand of football. Now look, he knows it himself, I'm sure of it. All the rumours are is that he's looking to move away, and I'll talk a bit more about that later in this episode. But, he knows it himself, Ange knows it, and I think he'll have been told. And the reality is he's been a great servant for Spurs under successive managers who've really rated him highly, one of the first names of the team sheet, and he will go with my best wishes, be that this January, in the next few days, or in the summer. He's worked hard for us, but as we move forward and as we try and make the most of all of the talent that our manager brings to us and putting together the squad that fits what he wants, Højbjerg, I'm afraid, will not be with us going forward. Moving on. In fact, I'm about to go into some kind of transfer rumours that we've got, and one big surprise one that I hadn't really known about. But before I do, just a little thank you again for all of your support. If you don't know already, you can become a Spurred On Pro member or a Patreon member. It's £1 a month. That's all it is, £1 a month. And for that, once we have enough members together, we're going to have members-only perks. You'll already get early videos. So videos will come to your members first if you sign up for the £1 a month Patreon or the Spurred On Pro membership. You'll also get guaranteed comment replies if you write comments in the YouTube. You will also get members-only live shows with me going forward. Once we have enough members to make that happen, so it's not just me talking to myself, there will be live members-only shows and Q&As where you can talk to me direct about all things Tottenham Hotspur. So please do look in the description box wherever you are, be that Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're listening on the audio podcast, or on YouTube. Look in the description box as to how you can become a Spurred On Pro member or a Patreon member. And once again, thank you for your support. What this membership really does is allows me to continue to make this daily content for you about Spurs. And I'm getting so much great support and lovely comments from you, and I really appreciate it. So now, more importantly, on to transfer news. And here is the one that has really surprised me. Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa, central midfielder, young, England under-21 international. He's played 101 Premier League appearances, though, already. 13 goals and 8 assists at a very young age, just in his early 20s. Here's the kicker. This is why I think this rumour has suddenly come a little bit out of left field. As we know, and as I'll mention, Spurs are still and have been sniffing around Conor Gallagher at Chelsea because Chelsea need to raise some funds to adhere to profit and sustainability rules. Aston Villa, it turns out, are in the same boat. They need to raise some funds by June of this year for the next load of financial accounting that they need to put in through to the Premier League to make sure that they don't risk failing the profit and sustainability rules test. As we know, homegrown players are money. If you make money from homegrown players, that is money that you can straight away put into those accounts. Whereas if it's foreign players and players who aren't homegrown, the money has to be kind of drip fed over the course of a contract in terms of that sell. So that's why I think this Jacob Ramsey rumour has come up. The other reason I think is because of our new sporting director, Lange. He came from Aston Villa, clearly knows the talent that this kid has. On Transfer Market, great website. If you don't go on it, do go on it. On Transfer Market, they have Jacob Ramsey valued at 42 million euros. And the price that's being talked about potentially for a Tottenham buy, £50 million. So that kind of makes sense. It's all in the right ballpark. What do we think about him as a player? What do I think about him as a player? He is very quick. A very good ball carrier from central midfield, brave on the ball. He works really hard, reads the game nicely, and he's got vision. And then when he gets into the box, he likes to make late runs into the box. If that's from out wide, he's quite good at cutting it back, as I had quite a few assists for Villa, getting kind of towards the byline, cutting it back. He's also a good finisher. I've seen him make great finishes off his right foot, which is his predominant foot, but also a couple of good finishes low with his left foot. Very unselfish player. When he gets in good positions in the pocket, good for through balls too, which could help us with the likes of Johnson and Werner running from wide, and of course Heung-min Son when he comes back. There's one other thing to discuss about this rumour. Newcastle also rumoured to be interested. But here, once again, is where Tottenham Hotspur have put themselves in a good position. Not many clubs are able to buy anyone this January. So Newcastle may be interested, but as we know, because of all the rumoured sales they're having to make, rumours of Trippier having to go, or Almiron having to go, or maybe even Callum Wilson interesting other clubs because they need to sell somebody, certainly before they buy, but maybe even to adhere to the profit and sustainability rules themselves. So, in the last 4 days of this window, which is when we know Daniel Levy turns his phone on. He doesn't even turn his phone on before the last 4 days of the window. In fact, why am I kidding myself? He's got loads of phones. He turns his 4 or 5 phones on the last 4 days of the window, and that's why some of these little rumours are coming up out of nowhere. This hasn't ended the Conor Gallagher rumour, though. It's still going, and today, David Ornstein in The Athletic, great journalist, make sure you follow him on Twitter if you're not already, he has said that 3 top half Premier League clubs have inquired about Conor Gallagher. No doubt to me that Tottenham Hotspur are one of those. And as we go towards the end of this January window, that rumour is not going away. Now, that's not to say that I think we'll get Ramsey and Gallagher. I think we'll look to get one if we can manage to get Højbjerg out. Those things will definitely rely on each other. But it's just interesting to me that we are undoubtedly all our ducks in a row in terms of the recruitment team and the manager and the board. We want young. Where possible, we want homegrown, and we're definitely looking for a central midfielder. As I mentioned, Højbjerg, he wants out, but Lyon have come in for him and he said no to Lyon. So I think he's quite keen to maybe go to Italy. That Juventus rumour won't go away. I have to mention Antonio Nusa, of course. It was disappointing to read over the weekend that he has decided to join Brentford above Tottenham Hotspur. But I have to say, sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say, I think he's made a good decision for himself. He knows if he goes to Brentford, he's been guaranteed game time in the Premier League. He cannot be guaranteed that at Spurs. He predominantly plays off the left. That's where Sonny plays. And I think when it came to it, Ange Postecoglou is not going to lie in a conversation with a player or their agent. He's not going to say you will be guaranteed game time unless they are. And he couldn't promise that. And also maybe Ange has seen Werner in training. I thought Werner had a good game the other night and thought, he is impressing me, so maybe we don't need to take a risk on this young player yet. In reality, with Nusa, if he does well for 2 or 3 seasons at Brentford, Spurs will still be interested in him then. Whether we can get him at that point would remain to be seen. I want to end this video by talking a little bit about that Mikel Arteta to Barcelona rumour. It has sent the Arsenal fans absolutely loopy. And the thing that I find interesting about this one, and I know, look, this isn't strictly Spurs news, but we hate Arsenal, so we've got to talk about it. I think Arsenal would do better if Arteta left. I know he's done a good job there. I'm not saying he hasn't. But what I think is that he is the one stopping them now from really pushing on and potentially winning the Premier League, because he's weird and he makes weird decisions and he says weird stuff. And I just think he will be the reason they don't win the Premier League under his tenure, if that makes sense. I think with a better manager in place there, they could do. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please do also go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, press follow or subscribe and give me a rating. It would be so helpful. And vice versa. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks so much. But come to YouTube, youtube.com/@BarnabySlater_. Drop me a subscribe and a like. Thanks so much. And with Brentford coming up on Wednesday, back to the Premier League, 3 points. Come on, you Spurs.